I honestly have no idea what the deal is with Laguna, and that's a good thing. I wouldn't go so far as to say he's completely unpredictable. We have seen enough of him to get some idea of what he'll do in a given situation, but it's obvious that as an actor, Laguna has a certain range, especially considering what he tolerated around Drac and Joe. So in this video, I want to talk about what Laguna's character arc might look like, as well as his future on the Eden Zero. Be warned that this will contain spoilers. Before I get started, make sure to comment with your thoughts on Laguna. I'll pick my favorite and share it as comment of the week in the next video. This week's comment goes to Lasher Luke, who shared his thoughts on Tsukasa from Dr. Stone. If you'd like more Eden Zero and other manga discussions like this one, then make sure to subscribe and follow along with each week's video. So before I talk about Laguna's future, let's just go over what he already contributes to the crew. Like I already said, one of his biggest appeals is his range. As a talented actor, Laguna is capable of acting out whichever persona he chooses to follow. The best friend, the loyal soldier, the deadly bodyguard. If he picks a role, then he will deliberately think about every little thing he does. That's just what good actors do. Not that I have any clue, I go to law school, but I'll take Laguna's word on this one. Although we do need to remember that Laguna just got done saying he doesn't want to be like that anymore. He just wants to live an honest life without having to play out these personas that he makes up in his head. Even so, that doesn't mean those acting skills just go away. He still has the range he had before, which translates to Laguna having a universal perspective on things. I mean, just think back to what he said to Rebecca after Drac and Joe killed Shiki. He tried to get Rebecca to see things from Drac and Joe's perspective as a loan shark, someone who couldn't afford to lose his reputation. So based on scenes like this, it's reasonable to assume that Laguna will continue to offer that universal perspective in group decisions, and will likely fill in the wiser adult role that's been left empty after the death of Witch. Although, let's be clear, this does not mean he's always going to be the boring straight man. We've already seen some top-tier interactions between him and the other characters, so I'm more than confident he'll start to get more gags and regular character dynamics like how we saw with Jin. Now, in terms of fights, Laguna's strongest appeal is undoubtedly his utility. From his main ability of turning people into water, allowing others to breathe underwater, and his newer ability to use an HM in the middle of a battle, it's obvious that Laguna's range of abilities is just as versatile as his range as an actor. So for the time being, Laguna is one of the most clutch members in the crew. He can be a heavy hitter when he wants to, and it's hard to name the situations where he wouldn't be useful. Plus, we still need to keep in mind that we haven't even seen his overdrive yet. Maybe it'll be another Pokemon move like Hydro Pump, maybe it's like a super version of his main ability, where he turns a bunch of people into tears at once. Who knows? Again, it's really hard to say for sure what the limits are for his abilities. All I know is that he better not get some basic-ass title like the Water of Edens, cause I really cannot take any more characters saying I will be the one to carry the Eden Zero over and over again. It's been done, so Mashima, please just give us something a little more creative. But for now, that's pretty much everything he offers to the crew. Range, maturity, and of course utility. So now let's get into where he's headed. To start, let's go back to what he said in 169. Laguna told Wise that he wants to stop playing out these personas and start living as his true self. Now obviously, as he said, part of this means serving on the Eden Zero. But the idea that he's going to reevaluate his decisions and try to find out who he really is has me more interested in him than anyone else right now. Because right now, Mashima is really stressing this theme of choices and how they have consequences. So because we have this character who is used to constantly thinking about how his character would make certain decisions, I have to think a big part of his character will be relearning how to make these kinds of big picture choices. Which by no means is an easy task. In the philosophy of existentialism, what Laguna was doing is what's referred to as living in bad faith. He was living according to these expectations and standards he made up for himself. So to not live in bad faith, he needs to get rid of all that and just be honest with himself. Which is hard. It's hard to be honest with ourselves because, let's be honest, it takes years to figure out who we really are and what you really want to do in life. We've all gone through it and are all probably still going through it. So to see Laguna go through that journey right now will without a doubt be one of the best parts of following his character. Now, while this is a personal journey of his, it doesn't mean the others won't be a part of it. Like I said, this theme of choices is a big part of the story. I mean, we just had a crisis situation that was all because Shiki was faced with a choice. And personas are a part of the other characters too, at least for Shiki. One of the first questions we're given is whether Shiki will become a hero or a villain. So part of his journey will obviously include how closely he follows either of those personas. Naturally, as the mature character with experience doing that kind of thing, Laguna will be there to offer his 2 cents and be like, look man, if you want to be a demon king, then here's what you gotta do. Or, hey, if you want to be a hero, then you really probably shouldn't be doing this. Anything more or less like that. And of course, Laguna will probably be sharing that universal perspective of his with all of the other members. But there is one character that he seems to be really tied to right now. And if you've paid any attention to the last few chapters, then you know I'm talking about Wise. Wise was really the only one we saw approach Laguna and acknowledge that Laguna was going through just as much hardship as everyone else. And it was Wise that Laguna opened up to and explained how he wanted to go down this new journey. For whatever reason, they have this dynamic right now of just being able to talk with each other. Partly, I think, because Wise was also someone who lived a past life, decided he didn't like it anymore, and had to find out who he really wanted to be. Which, of course, brought him to the Eden Zero like we're seeing with Laguna right now. So while there's nothing that tells us this will definitely continue in the future, the dynamic is there and it would be awesome to see the characters grow together and continue to count on each other in times of hardship. Kind of like how we've seen with Wise and Hermit, where they build each other up and tend to be there when the other one is in need of support. Which, now that I think about it, I can only imagine all the Laguna Wise shippers and fanfiction. But anyway, as I close out the video, I just want to mention how there's still a lot we don't know about Laguna. What led him to become an actor? Does he still have other friends or family out there? In his journey of finding himself, I'm confident we're going to have another character from his past enter into the story and force Laguna to make some tough decisions. On top of that, it's not a guarantee that he'll stick with the crew. He might pull a Sanji and leave the crew only to get dragged back in, or he might decide to leave for good. Again, it's unclear where he's really headed, and it's why I'm so engaged with his character right now and am dying to see what happens. So when you look at his range, utility, and maturity as a character, it's easy to see why Laguna is currently one of the most fascinating members of the Eden Zero. It's not clear exactly where he's headed, but wherever he does end up will inevitably influence our main characters and become a major part in this new era of the story. And that's it for this discussion. If you enjoyed this discussion, then make sure to like the video. Also make sure to comment with your thoughts down below. And if you'd like more Eden Zero and other manga discussions like this one, then make sure to subscribe and follow along with each week's video. Thank you for watching, and I hope to hear from you soon.